We're talking to Jamie Brighton from Adobe. You have products to do personalization, Adobe Target. What does it do?
Adobe Target is a tool that's aimed at organizations who want to really take control of the data that they've got about the customers that they're interacting with and use that information in real time to provide a relevant and engaging experience on all of the digital touch points that they're typically being asked to engage with customers on. Traditional things like desktop website, mobile app, but also increasingly connected devices. For example, we're doing a lot of work with some of the console manufacturers to do automated recommendations directly in the interface of those types of application as well.
The PlayStation.
PlayStation.
But it seems to be an area where we e-commerce professionals talk about a lot, but we don't do it a lot, right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. You read any sort of survey and people talk about how promising personalization is to the organization, but then when they're asked if they're doing it, a lot of people sort of shy away from that.
Why is that?
Well, I think the typical things are, the technology is often a barrier, or has been in the past, but also...
It's a nightmare.
Well, I won't say that as we're a technology provider, but
your software is dead easy.
Well, exactly. We think we're now in a position where organizations can really easily unlock some of that value that's typically been held up in kind of silos of data about customers that they just can't really action. So that's where
because you make this software for a long time already. Do you really think the software is increasingly easy to use now?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a big focus, certainly within Adobe, as we develop the Adobe Marketing Cloud, on usability and on actually unlocking the value in the data that people have had. So all the way back to Omniture, the days of Omniture, if anyone remembers that, we were always about the data as a web analytics firm, but the founders of that company recognized early on that it was about unlocking the value in that data. So things like A/B testing, targeting, using that profile information to actually enhance the experience. And that's where we've been going with the development of the Marketing Cloud and all of the solutions that we have in it now.
So those sort of values are integrated in the personalization bit as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all about, it's not about single view of customer, it's about what data do you need about the individual at that moment in time to provide that kind of engaging experience. And that probably isn't 10 years worth of sales history, but it might be the last 6 pages or last 6 products that they've been engaged with in that session.
So let's take a customer example. I'm a retailer, web shop, Magento. I use Google Analytics. I do 2 million euros of revenue, and I don't do personalization. What steps do I take, or what do I do?
Well, first question, why wouldn't you be doing personalization? Because it doesn't really matter, as long as there's a transaction that you're conducting online and you're taking money for it, then you can always optimize those transactions. And
I want to, but yeah. What steps do I need to take?
Obviously, the Adobe Target solution can use data from any analytics platform. Clearly, it's part of the overall Adobe Marketing Cloud, but we integrate with e-commerce shops. We integrate with data sources like Google Analytics. We can take that data and use it. And the first step would obviously be to start simply. Start with the high value pages on the site, work out maybe what the best...
So the product detail page?
PDP, but potentially also things like the conversion, the checkout process. Is that optimized? Have you got the right number of steps? Are you asking the questions in the wrong order in order to...
So then I start Adobe Target, I couple it with, I connect it to Google Analytics, so I have the data. But then I need to personalize the front end. Or how do I target any areas, or what do I do in the front end?
Yeah, I mean, typically you would be using Adobe Target mainly for this. So Target is capturing all of the information about conversions, about where people are going on the site, and the sort of usage patterns that you want to understand. And then it
does that just by putting one tag on the site, yes, and it analyzes all your site.
JavaScript, yeah, all across the site, and then we can understand which categories of product people are looking at, which individual products they're engaging with. We can do things like automated recommendations, which comes as part of the solution as well.
Right. So, for instance, I set a specific banner on the PDP for recommendations, and you can do that then.
Yeah. So people who looked at that product ultimately bought. People who looked at that product also looked at. It works for content as well. So if you want to do a knowledge base on the site to keep people engaged, reduce customer support calls, then you can get the relevant information to people based on those algorithms, rather than having to manually create connections with that content. But it's a visual tool as well. So you asked about how do you actually kind of get started. Well, you actually use the tool. You visually build up the test experiences that you want from within the application itself. So it's pretty straightforward to get up and running.
Does this work like a visual website optimizer work? So you have a WYSIWYG editor and you can edit in there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been a move within most testing and optimization tools these days to provide a visual way of actually building the test and the experiences and then previewing those. So we have our own interface that sits on top of the site. You can browse around the site, find the aspect that you want to target or test on, and then visually build up those different experiences from within the browser.
And with those recommendations, I can also code a banner or a container into my site and personalize in that container.
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about recommendations is you can actually conduct an MVT test within the recommendations. So you can have the system work out which template, which algorithm, where on the site to actually use it, and which of those things combined drives the overall best value for you as an organization.
Okay, and then what does it cost? We're Dutch.
So our standard response to that is it's all about the value that you get from the solution. So it's a licensing model based on the amount of page views that you're conducting across the site. So every time...
Page views.
Page views. So every time someone...
Let's say I'm doing 1 million page views a month.
I'd have to refer to one of our sales guys in terms of...
Is it like in the tenors or the hundreds?
It's comparable with all of the other solutions out there in terms of cost.
We're going to have to look the price up, right?
Absolutely. Or contact me directly and we can have a conversation.
Okay. Last tip for people who want to start this process, what do they do?
Well, definitely start today, because you're leaving money on the table if you're not optimizing now, and your competition are. And don't just think about technology. Again, I've already said once, we are a technology company, but we recognize that this is an investment that an organization needs to make in people and process as well, because if you don't get buy-in to the organization around what you're trying to do, then these things kind of wither on the vine quite quickly. So make sure that everyone's on board with what you're trying to achieve and report the business benefits back to them very early on.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Very good.